Everyone knows that NATO is on this side, from Europe, the United States, and Canada. But this time, Azerbaijan would have deepened its military alliance with NATO.
And where is Azerbaijan located?
Well, it's up to Ukraine, and down here in the south is Azerbaijan. So NATO is operating in this area, but there's an alliance with Azerbaijan which is right next to this area, sparking a strong reaction from Russia. President Ilham Aliyev of Azerbaijan reportedly received a delegation from the alliance to discuss military modernization. Russia sees this as a direct threat to its sphere of influence in the region. Konstantin Zhikov would be key then. This Russian military expert reportedly warned that the presence of NATO in the South Caucasus. It means the Caspian will no longer be the Sea of Peace, or that's what they call it. And well, let's see, they call it the Sea of Peace because Russia controls the Caspian Sea. On this side is the Black Sea, and on this side is the Caspian Sea. From here, there are military ships that launch missiles toward Ukraine. It's very difficult for them to respond all the way to the Caspian Sea. So let's say the Caspian Sea has become an area where they can move around. It's not a sea, by the way, do you notice? It's a huge lake. But from here, they can launch fire without creating much risk for their own navy. Turkey, as a key NATO ally and direct supporter of Azerbaijan, strengthens its role in the region. This increases the risk of an indirect clash with Russia and Iran, both strategic allies, Iran and Russia. The situation grows more delicate after Azerbaijan and Armenia sign a historic agreement mediated by Donald Trump. So the United States is increasingly influencing, along with NATO, between Azerbaijan and Armenia. They even have a bridge in this area, in the southern part, which the United States is going to control. So let's say that this area is becoming more and more influenced by NATO. And this obviously has set off all the alarms within Russia. In October, Vladimir Putin and Aliyev met in Pakistan to ease tensions. Especially, do you remember that plane shot down by Russia? A plane that, well, crashed in Russian territory between Russia and Azerbaijan? Or rather, what about that one? On that occasion, Russia didn't want to admit that they had shot it down. When there was clear evidence. There was evidence that there was shrapnel in the wings. Yes, where it exploded, shrapnel came out, and well, the plane was lost to begin with. And today, well, the people who were there died, right? So now, to calm things down, Vladimir Putin acknowledged it. They're even going to send money to the families, supposedly, aiming to ease tensions and keep relations with Azerbaijan. NATO has not mentioned publicly, nothing has been said about the intention to incorporate Azerbaijan as a member. Maybe as a member, let's say not with all the rights, maybe, we don't really know. It's not known, but Azerbaijan would be another country that has a connection with NATO, even though it wouldn't yet belong to this organization. Even so, it's seen as an expansion that aims to have, well, like a kind of closing from side to side. From the north with Finland to the farthest south, which would be Azerbaijan in this region,
not in this area?
Well, with that said, let's move on to the next image. Notice that number 22 appears. Very interesting indicators. One is food inflation, in which it shows the highest food inflation, Turkey. It then mentioned Argentina at 27%, followed by Russia. The three countries with the highest food inflation right now are Turkey, Argentina, and Russia. Now, there are other countries like, for example, Spain and Mexico that have inflation of 2%, 2.5%, 2.4%. That's actually a pretty positive thing for the economies, both Mexican and French, Spanish as well, for example. So, well, that's an interesting topic, isn't it? Inflation is nearly 7% in Japan and 27% in Argentina and Turkey. In fact, in the end, food is getting more and more expensive in that region, in those countries. And on the other hand, there's also this other point, which is unemployment. How is unemployment in other parts of the world? In Africa, in South Africa specifically, 33% are unemployed, which is an impressive number. In Spain, 10.4% would be unemployed. And look, If we go, for example, to Canada, Canada has 6.9% unemployment, which is more than double the unemployment rate of Mexico. Mexico has 3%. It's alongside Switzerland and Saudi Arabia. 3% unemployment in Mexico. For example, the United States has 4.3%. Unemployment is higher in the United States and Canada than in Mexico. Obviously, it's a topic where we should also talk about the types of salaries, the types of jobs, which are also other important indicators. But specifically regarding unemployment, well, it's a very, very important fact. After these buildings were destroyed by Russia, would this little dog have been rescued inside Ukraine? This happened in Dnipro. That's where this little one was rescued. He came out of nowhere, from the absolute rubble. Come on, it was good. He was saved by a miracle. Meanwhile, they show another image of the famous flamingo. The missile built by Ukraine, a type of missile built by Ukraine, which, by the way, was designed by a 33-year-old woman named Irina Terek. She is the technical director of 5 Points, the company that developed these missiles. Flamingo. Well, she's not the director of the company. It has been surprising, especially considering that this is a missile that has more or less 1,000 and something kilograms of explosives. And it has an accuracy of 14 meters, meaning it lands within about 14 meters of its target. That's the maximum margin of error, and it can fly more than 1,000 kilometers without being detected, or almost without being detected. In Russia, this strike is taking place. This time, workers declared that they won't return to work until they get paid. They are already owed twice. This strike has been spreading. There are already 300 construction workers who work for the Orgolor Institute. I'm in Ulanovsk. They went on strike because they haven't been paid in over 2 months. What if we go 2 months and a bit more without getting paid? We ask you to address this situation and help us because people can no longer pay their loans. A lot of them have piled up. Remember why?
In 2016, recently in the last month, we've had a detention, the payment.
Well, that's part of what's happening. They claim that their lunches have been cancelled, that the toilets aren't working. Come on, a series of complaints, he says. We haven't eaten in a long time. As for transportation, we manage as best we can, as the workers expressed in a statement they would have made on November 5th. And well, they reported in the media. Astra over there from Russia. They also present this little bottle. This bottle costs $7.2 million of a whiskey called Naira. It's impressive, just the type of, well, like a small suitcase, I don't know, like a kind of very luxurious case. And they open it, and it's this little bottle with an impressive cost of $7.2 million. Naira whiskey is the name of the most expensive whiskey on the planet. By the way, they found these images of some objects flying in Tampa, over in Florida. This happened on the 8th today at 6 in the morning. There were 3 objects, 2 flying parallel to the ground and 1 object higher up. You can't really see that it was going up and down, and it kept going up and down, and that's how it was. According to that report, it consisted of 3 parts, with a green light and 1 in the middle that was ascending. The publication claims that this has been happening, or the posts have been made in Tampa Bay, Florida. Let's move on to other important matters. Here are the reports. Let's discuss another topic.